All board members are present, as well as Superintendent Frank Norton. First up, we will stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. So, for our workshop, the agenda is set and does not change. First up is our finance update. So we have Ms. Paradis here to go over July information.
July and a second look at June.
Okay.
All right. All right, so in your packet, to start off with, we have the July Treasurer's Report. You can see that ties out to our bank statements. The second page shows any investments we are still holding. You can see we have a lot more liquid cash in July as opposed to investments. That is something strategically our investment planner and I are doing. Since interest rates keep ramping up, we don't want to lock ourselves in at this point. We're just keeping things in more savings accounts, things with variable interest rates, so we can take advantage of those incremental increases. Are there any questions on the Treasurer's Report? All right, moving along. This is our second look as of the budget as of June 30th. These are pre-audited numbers. They include a number of estimations for receivables on things like state and federal aid, and then some expenditures going out as well, some estimations. This is what the auditors are looking at this week. They're going to see if they agree with my estimations. If they agree, in total, it's looking like somewhere around $900,000 to $1 million increase in overall fund balance. I did take a moment before I came down to the meeting to break that out by our fund balances. About $370,000 will be in the unassigned, undesignated. Again, if this holds up through the audit, which is the fund we have the most flexibility, there's the word I'm looking for, with our spending. We also, for another large increase, is about another $368,000 in our LTFM, which we can use for deferred maintenance projects down the road. Are there any questions on the budget report?
I was just going to say, Jackie, that I really appreciate the summaries in the board packet. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. On that note, moving on, we have an updated enrollment tracking report compared to our August 15th MDE report, which is saying we are 47 students over budget. But if you go to the background information that Pam noted, you will see that that is the majority in our tuition out students. So students who are our residents who are attending tuition programs such as the programs at GCD, Tower View, Five Rivers Online. That would be the majority, but I mean, it could be a student going to Intermediate 287, Intermediate 916, going to care and treatment down in Rochester. It could be a number of reasons why students are choosing to go elsewhere. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Thank you. If I heard you right here, your summary here, you're saying the tuition out of 200.15 students this year. That would include our students that are Five Rivers Online?
Correct.
And do you have any idea how many students are in that? I'm sure it's well over 100.
It's over
I
100.
know they're not all full-time, but we probably have at least 100 full-time.
Yeah, I was looking at that before the last March submission. I want to say we were in the 150, 160 range.
If that's true, I'm just trying to back up to the 2021 final number and the 21-22 final numbers. That would indicate that we've had an upswing in enrollment. Is that?
In students coming back to either a tuition program or.
And going back from my memory a few years back, along with people enrolling out of the district, at that time, we were projecting that the number of available students would continue to go down in the community. To me, this seems to contradict that opinion of that time, and that we're probably on the upswing on
residents?
school-age students in our area.
I can bring that information back next month.
Appreciate that.
Yep.
If we could.
Yeah, so I'll make another line for resident students because we're starting to get resident student estimations with those MDE reports as well.
I mean, that's resident students pretty much shows up here on your update here. On the bottom line, we combine the two.
That is not all resident students. That is students we serve, which includes our open enrollment in. Any tuition out resident students, but it would not reflect residents who are open enrolling out. It would also not reflect any residents in non-public schools.
Thank you.
I must be missing some pages. I'm not finding that information that you're talking about.
Okay.
I'll go over it later.
Right, if you have questions, let me know.
Yeah, I don't see I see 21, 22 MDA report, 21, I don't see the 800 or 80 some or whatever number you used before, so, well, we'll go over it later.
Okay. The last page of my report is just to bring you up to date on the COVID funds we've received to date. These are as of September 1st, and I plan to work on another drawdown this month. Any other questions? All right, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so next on our agenda is establishing the superintendent goals. So there are a number of ways that we can do this. One possibility is using that superintendent evaluation resource guide from MSBA, also known as get back to the front page of it. Oops. State goals and standards-based superintendent evaluation. But I think I'll let you start out if you're ready, Mr. Norton, to kind of tell us what your thoughts are.
Well, okay,
Does that work?
sure. I guess it would be at your pleasure as to what tool you wanted to be able to use, and I completely understand that, and that is Linkly, the one that you specifically have. If you wanted to narrow it down, I can give you a sense basically from my first month basically of being in the position as to the direction that I'd like to be able to go, and then maybe that will help narrow that larger document.
Yeah, great.
So there are three main, and possibly four, including finance and the referendum and those. But the primary ones that I see at this particular point are one, the most obvious one is our students and the delivery of our education to our students. So what I'd like to be able to do is continue some of the work that has already been done, but to narrow it down to evidence-based instruction. Some of the curriculum's already been aligned, but now I want to move in a direction of evidence-based instruction. What works in the classroom? The professional development that goes around that. And making sure that our teachers understand that these are the things that we really want to be able to see when we walk into the classroom. So not necessarily our eye observation system that we have in place, but more globally a rounded view of the evidence-based instructions that work. And that directly impacts our kids. So that's one. It's sort of unlocking student success by using best practices, which is I understand, an overused term, but it's more along the lines of I'd really like to be able to narrow that in. While that's happening, one of the key pieces with evidence-based instruction is equitable, basically, opportunities for instruction within the class. So those will go hand in hand. I don't know how to frame this exactly, but when you're talking about instruction that happens within the classroom, that would be a portion of it as well. And then, of course, the other portion that goes with that, when you're giving professional development along best practices or along evidence-based instruction, also includes the social emotional portions of instruction within the classroom. So those three would follow basically underneath student success. So my first one is talking about success of our students, and that goes streamed through our teachers. And those would be some of the three subcategories underneath that. Second one that I'd like to be able to, that I think would be one of my primary goals is strengthening the community connections and confidence of our community to our schools. That would be a second one that I'd like to be able to work on, is that connection and the confidence, building trust with our parents, and them knowing that their kids can come back in. There was a little bit of that because there was a disconnect that happened over the last couple of years. We disconnected, and that wasn't our fault, it wasn't anybody's issue, but that reconnection basically is an important piece that I think that I need to be able to work on, and taking control sort of from a superintendent standpoint of that narrative of what that's going to look like. How is that going to present to our parents and making that connection so our students, they feel good about sending their kids to school. If they feel good about it, their kids will feel good about it. And if their kids feel good about it, our teachers. I mean, it's just this rolling effect that happens once they have confidence and the communication is coming from me through you, or through you to me, and then out into the community. When you do that, it reduces flashpoints. It reduces things that we need to be able to, a professor of mine once said, go to the fire, and what he means by that is basically go to it rather than reacting. So you're already out there communicating what's happening within the school, and that would be a goal of mine, okay? The third one is sort of one that presented itself more so to me as a superintendent than it did in any of my past career, and that's the employee experience and what our teachers now and the shortage thereof. So how do we make sure that we're growing our own within the school district, growing our own within this community, and the ones we have, the teachers that we have, they need to stay. And how do we reimagine how our staff operate within the school district, improving the engagement in the schools, retains them. If they're involved and they love it here, they stay. And that's a portion of my job, is to make sure that they feel connected to the school. Just like I'm telling you, the parents need to feel connected to the school, our teachers need to feel connected to the school. They need to feel supported. So I need to attract staff, and I need to be able to retain staff. And there's a lot of ways to be able to do that, but that talent needs to be able to stay here, where we have them. And through that, some of the ways that through a superintendent basically is reducing the stress that they feel throughout their day, making sure that we have the resources that they can be successful, and at the same time, making sure that kids, that goes back to the first goal, making sure our kids are successful. When our kids are successful, the teachers feel as though they've accomplished things, that talent stays where it is. So those three, basically, as you posed that question to me probably, 2, 3, or well, at least 3 weeks ago, probably even before that. And for my first snapshot of that, I was saying I really want to get into the instructional practices of teachers and to bring our teachers from where they are, they're good and they're great, to another level. And that impacts our kids, it impacts instruction, and our kids then can reach their potential. Second one, like I talked about, is the community and the confidence in our community, the connections to our community. And the third one really is the employee experience, growing our own, making sure that we're attracting talent. The teacher shortage out there is something that's real. And I felt that in this particular position. There's probably more, but those are just the three that kind of popped into my head as you guys asked me about it. I'd be willing to be able to go into that. Fourth one, of course, is just finance and making sure that we can, and Jackie's already touched on that, keeping care of our facilities, making sure that our facilities are where we need them to be able to be. That 10-year plan was presented to you in the future, and you guys have done a lot of great things already with our solar fields, which you're going to hear in just a little bit, as far as energy and those things like that. So maybe 4, the fourth one is fairly obvious, basically, to a superintendent's role. Okay,
Ryan?
I'll open it up.
Thank you. Great, I like that, I like that idea coming from you, because we could tell you, we could sit around here for a half hour, 45 minutes and debate 6 or 8, 10 things and go down the country. But we rely on you to come back to us with things for us to approve, to send to you, and I think these are 3 big ticket items in your first 8 weeks or so here, however you are here, and I like it. I'm not in favor of the 70-some MSBA or whatever number it is for you on the evaluation at this point. Since you're interim, we're meeting, and I understand we're meeting and looking at the calendar sometime in December to finalize which direction we're going to go. And I think this will give you a lot of work. I mean, with the strength in the communities, you can tie the referendum to that too.
Right.
And all that. So, good points. I think they're very good. And like that they came from you to bring to us for us to say, yay, that's a great idea. You've seen this, in the snapshot of what you've been here. Now, your first full day here today, it might have changed, but I doubt it. And so I just say thank you for submitting those. And I'm more in favor of us evaluating you on something like this than big evaluation.
Ms. Tower?
I agree with Jim. I like your overarching ideas of things to focus on. Do you feel at this point, however many weeks in, 8, 6, you have the resources you need to get some of this stuff done?
That's a good question. Well, in the first one, one of the resources that we've already had is a past practice of our learning communities. And we've started, thanks to Dr. Wagner and myself and the principals getting together and saying we need to reestablish and up the game, so to speak, of our learning communities. And my presentations when I went around to the school and our large staff one that we had, or at least the teachers were all present, I talked about you being a learning community and all of us being a learning community. That's the beginning of that strategy of being able to say, here's what good instruction looks like. And it starts when you start to talk about instruction. I would say I know what good instruction looks like, and you would, but how do the 3 of us get that conversation started? So it's already begun. So I have some of the resources from the past. PLC process has already been put in place. I just want to make it grow. I want to take it from where it is again. It's really good and it's ordered on great to that great spot where that is a resource. Dr. Wagner is also going to help me to be able to make sure that that's there. And it's about support, making sure the principals are going in, getting them what they need. So yes, I have those pieces in place. If I need something, it's really just coming back and saying, I need more professional development. I need to be able to send this group here or that group there, or bring this person in or bring that person in as to what that might look like. What does the learning community look like at different age levels? It might look completely different in a fourth grade group than it does to the English wing, the social studies wing right inside here. So I could talk to them. Each one of those has a little bit different spin. The community portion of it, my resource is Anne and you, and saying, where do you need to be able to go to be able to make those connections? It's also talking, whenever there's a phone call that comes in, I've got this amount of time to be able to get back. So if it is a little bit of a resource, it would be time. Be able to make sure that that's happening. The last portion of it, structure, I guess it would be us being able to go out and having the opportunity to be able to go out and find the teachers that we need. So a resource might be, again, a little bit of time or a little bit of freedom to be able to go out and see what is out there. And when I bring somebody in, trusting that that's the person that is going to fill that position because we've done our research. Financially, there's not a whole lot that really goes behind this other than professional development.
So are you looking at your first, the first one to me is colossal.
Yep.
The student experience. Students with second language learning skills, they're multi-language and we're trying to pinpoint them into one.
Yep.
We have students with special needs that I'm still not clear on what the path is for our students with special needs at every level. I know what we've been told is the programming, but I'm not sure what the path is. I'm not sure the direction that we're heading on supports in that area. That's why I ask specifically around, student engagement, PBIS, special needs, ELL. I know we have all of those pieces, and then we're just, the average students who need really good curriculum and teachers who have that curriculum in their hands.
Right.
So there's multi-layers of the first one. The second and third, I get. They're pretty, reach out to the community, be available, go to things, answer great questions. But it's the first one that's multi-layered. And there's you, there's Martina.
Yep.
Who else, how do you see that reaching all of those entities? How are you kind of framing your work with that?
Well, it is big, and I won't
It's
have it
huge.
done by December, Jim.
Yeah.
So,
No, that's why I really want to recognize how big that is, and that's why I want you to be really cognizant. If you need something to move in this direction, don't be afraid to say, we really need to work on X.
Right.
And this is where I think we could get, more bang for our buck, or this is the line we need to follow.
well, one of the things that was of interest, basically, and even the organizational chart's going to come up later, but as I look at the organizational charts and the silos that are out there, it's wrapping your head around each of those pieces that you just mentioned. And then saying to them, the board has me as far as resource, what do I need to be able to do that? And I ask that same question. So when we come together and we're learning together, how can we put these pieces together? There's different models to be able to do that. I'm still exploring how I want that to look. You can have meeting after meeting and really just deliver information to each other, or you can get together and you can really solve problems. So it's going to take some exploration, but it's a goal. I don't have everything ironed out right now, but I get where you're coming from.
Okay, good.
As far as the pieces.
Yeah, I don't want you to feel like we're putting roadblocks and saying, this is all you get to do what you want to do or to do what Red Wing needs.
Right.
So, and I'm not saying we've got an open checkbook. I'm just saying, don't be afraid to say to the board, help.
Right.
And this is where we need it.
Right. I appreciate that.
You can pick that. Yeah.
You make up a good point, because you have members of this board that are involved with a lot of different people in the community. You got Nikki right over there, the Per Island Committee.
Mm-hmm.
She's a great resource for that, great person, and other groups in the community. Athletics, graduates, and the arts, business owner, student, resident,
Teacher.
and just somebody that here that knows a lot of people. So we'll help you if that's what it takes. But you're right, we can be disengaged to a degree. Where that fell, I don't know, but you're right, because the community's out there still wondering and asking about you. And so you use us as we're going to use you.
I appreciate that. And again, it wasn't anything that anybody could help nationally. It was a disconnect. So the goal really is for us to reconnect.
Mhm.
And I'll help the board reconnect. You use me to make that reconnection happen, and that's why I think it's important that that happen. Good point.
Ms. Rowe?
I was just taking down a few notes as we were talking here. Really the superintendent's goals need to align with the board's goals, which needs to align with the district goals. And I think what you've said this evening, it perfectly aligns with what we've been talking about for years here. So I'm very energized by the three main goals that you've talked about. And one of our tasks, as you've pointed out, Holly, is really our job is to make your goals happen. So what do you need to do that? I've done a lot of goal setting in the past, and teachers do it all the time, special ed teachers do it all the time. So then my next question is, how are we going to measure these goals for success? Like Holly said, number one's colossal. So is there something within number one that I know you want to do all of number one. That's awesome. So do we. But is there something that we could hone in on, or you could hone in on, that we could say, I've seen PLCs work. Can we go from 3 PLCs to 5 a year? Or, this is the outcome I'm hoping to get out of those. Or, how do we know that what the best practices are and starting to implement? How are we going to know that they're working? I'm just throwing things out there, but what I like about the MSBA, and it's not 87 or 25, it's 6 main areas, or 8, and within those 8 areas, there's like 5 or 6.
Your domains.
Yeah, so you have to have this overarching thing, then you have this small thing. And so you really are only focusing on 2 or 3 of those tiny things in there. So we already have a tool that we've used, but I just, we can talk to the cows come home, but how do we know? How are we going to measure? What kinds of things are we going to put in place to know? I'm happy to have a narrative evaluation if that's what the board wants to do, but how are we going to measure or evaluate these goals that you've set? And I love that you're setting those goals, because I think that's an important piece too.
So I can take these 3 or 4 or whatever it is, and then go back to those standards that are in place and say they match, and here's how they match, and then personalize them basically to Red Wing, which wouldn't really be that difficult. They exist within that framework. I simply stated them basically as to how I feel this district needs to be able to go. Could have pulled them out and stated them, but it didn't make any sense because it isn't how we live here. They're generic, they're for the state. So, but I can plug them in. I could take some of the domains, some of the substandards within that packet and put them in here, and then make them to where we are within our district. And then you'd be able to use both tools simultaneously. If you want to take the 8 or whatever that might be, and you really wanted me to hone in on 3 for right now, they'll match.
You'll definitely find those in there. I don't care what we use. I just think we need to know how.
Yeah.
How we're going to evaluate these goals. That's my biggest question.
Okay. So these are sort of overarching. Underneath them, there would be, here's the things that I need to be able to accomplish. And here's what Martina needs to be able to accomplish. Some of this is in the strategic plan for year number 4, which we've already worked. Some of it is not. The evidence-based instruction piece of it, I have specific things that I want to be able to accomplish. That's from where I come from. So that's not necessarily in there, but I would plug it in. So given the opportunity basically to now, if these are things that you would like to be able to see, or if people who haven't spoken want to add something in, now I would melt them together and then come back to you and say, here's the community piece. Here's how we're going to bring Prairie Island in, or whatever it might be, and here's some of the things that we see happening. Here's some of the things that we want as far as our learning communities to look like within the schools, all of the schools. That's what our learning communities should look like. The supervision that's going to happen, the agendas that are going to be set, the experiences that the teachers get within there can be reported out and celebrated. We're celebrating those successes, those kinds of things within our PLCs. Those things are yet to come. These are just a broader picture that I'm talking about right now. But yes, I would be able to hopefully measure them.
I threw myself in the queue, so I'd be next. I think the goals that you have stated are great. And yeah, like Pam, I was kind of wondering, how are we going to measure them? Because of course, a goal needs to have things that you can measure. A good goal should be measurable and clear. So I was kind of trying to rewrite these, putting in verbs instead of I guess, more kind of abstract things like, strengthens community connections and builds trust with families. But even with that, you need to have like those benchmarks of how are we measuring that you are doing those things. But so I think it's great though, if we agree on these goals and then you take that and, kind of give us the bullet points of like the things that you hope to accomplish. And then be able to, report back as time goes on as to what's working, what's not, what needs, what things you feel like you can check off the list and what things you thought you could check off the list, but turns out we need more stuff for, or, whatever the case might be. So, I think I'm happy with that to, push it up to the next meeting for like a more fleshed out kind of, or, specific benchmark kind of version of it. But otherwise, I think they're good, so.
Number one, the first one up here is probably the biggest one.
Yeah.
But it might be the more tangible thing to actually be able to measure, because I can see it. I'm in the buildings. I'm watching instruction, and so are the principals, and so is Martina. We're watching instruction, we're watching the relationships build within those classrooms and how they operate and the practices that they're having, which include relationship building. I talked about the social emotional pieces of it. And the second and third probably actually are going to have to be more along the lines of surveys, which you might have to do monthly if you're going to actually gain something, or at least bi-monthly. Rather than the end of the year or even quarterly, you'd want to be able to send something out just to get a snapshot of where you are. Because really you're talking about community confidence. Other than going out and listening to the community, basically, how are you going to know that? And the employee experience without go along the same line. Being able to get something out to them to say, what kind of supports do you need? Simple 8 questions, snapshot. Tell me how it's going in your classrooms. Those are the kinds of things we've done or have done.
Mr. Dirks?
Thank you. I'm pretty much in line with what you're saying, and on the staff and growing our own and everything, it sounds great, but equity has been a huge part of what we've been working on the last few years, and I don't want us to lose sight of that in the process of growing our own, that we step back from our efforts to try and bring in people from other races and cultures into our schools so students can relate to somebody that looks like them or whatever. I didn't hear that mentioned in that, so I just don't want to see that slip away. And then the other part of it on keeping our staff experience good and everything else is all comes in the recruiting, because a lot of our issues of feeling good as a staff are being put in situations where they have to sub when they didn't plan on subbing, or not even having a sub for their class and stuff. So we're all on track with that. I would just like to add a little bit more that maybe we make an effort for not just teachers, but our support staff, our custodians, our cooks, our paraprofessionals, and others are included in more staff development options. In the past, there's been issues where they didn't even know what they're going to do, even though it was a scheduled day until the day of it. That's the way it seemed. And I better be careful because it maybe isn't the way it was, but it sure looked that way. So we have numerous staff development days for teachers, but we have a very limited number of them for our paraprofessionals that work side by side with our teachers. So that's just a suggestion for me. I'm not putting it in a goal, but don't lose sight of those things as we go. The community connection has been an issue for a long time. We're talking about identifying how we measure success. Well, the biggest measure of success on community relations is going to be referendums. Communication to our public and stuff, and having the public have confidence in what we're doing here and stuff. So we're a little late on that with this referendum coming up here, but renewal. But if you have a good relationship with your community, and your school and the community feel good about each other, you'll never have a problem passing a referendum. They will happen automatically.
Right.
People hold votes back when they feel, some people at least do, when they feel that they're not getting what they think they should be getting. Unfortunately, then sometimes that causes our students to be in a position they shouldn't be. But So I'm totally on board, working with the community, that growing their own staff is also part of it, but don't lose focus on the equity part of it as we go forward on it, so. And yeah, it's nice to have a goal and a way to measure it, but sometimes it's a gut feeling. When I ran my business, I ran various ads and you think you didn't get any results and you can't do it. It's when you put it all together and look back, hey, we're successful, people are feeling good about things. But I went through my business, I ran a job or an event trying to gain customers. And out of that whole experience of 2 days, I got one new customer. And that new customer didn't pay their bill. But that exposure still was good, but how do you measure it? Don't measure it on just that one event. So it's very difficult. So I'm having a hard time when we say we're gonna put these goals here, then we have to be able to measure them. I don't think we can, or a gut feeling is gonna tell you, in my opinion. I'm just putting that out there.
Okay.
Thank you.
Ms. Dick?
Thank you, Arlen, for bringing up that diversity and equity piece. I think that is incredibly important and needed to be said, so thank you for that. I agree with what Pam said. It's exciting and energizing to hear the goals that you have. It really makes me look forward to this school year even more, so I appreciate that. As far as measuring, I do feel that we need to have some sort of way to measure. I don't think it would be responsible of us as a board to just go by gut feelings, although I do believe that's part of the process. But we do need to have a way to measure these. I appreciate your ideas for the surveys. That's something that I think we as a district have not done enough to reach out and talk to the community and our staff and our students and find out what they think and how they feel about their experiences. So I think that is a great idea. Also, I don't think we should discount the MSBA evaluation. So I appreciate your idea of going back and trying to possibly combine the two and finding some of the goals on that match yours, because they certainly do. They're there, already written in a way that we can use to evaluate, I believe, with, like you said, personalizing it. So
Sure.
I appreciate you taking the extra time to go through and do that. It feels like it's our job to do that. So but I appreciate your offer to, go through and match that with what your goals are. So thank you for that. It's exciting to me to hear this tonight. It just feels really great. Looking forward for this school year. So thank you.
Ms. Tower?
Thank you. Yeah, the baseline for me is always the big question. What's our baseline? What are we going into? My gut feeling is probably different than somebody else's gut feeling about our baseline. Does that mean then we do a short survey amongst the 7 of us and give a numbered baseline, and then we do the same survey at the end, to kind of measure where this board thinks the district is versus where you would like to take it? That's the part for me that's difficult, because like Arlen, you can go on your gut feeling, but if I think I'm rocking the world out of my classroom and I'm just teaching my pants off and nobody makes any gains, and my principal comes in and is like, well, your test scores, tankers. I'm like, yeah, but they might not see those results for a few months. When you measure it on the spot, or when you measure it in time, or you use your gut, and all the kids are like, yeah, we did great, we know this. We couldn't do it, we didn't. It leaves so much open to a finite decision, which is where we're gonna be heading in December. What does that look like for all of us? I feel like this board all wants it to go in the same movement, up, forward, exciting. I don't know if we all have the same idea where we're starting. And I think that's important for you to know, what I believe versus what Arlen thinks versus what Pam thinks in these 4 goal areas. How do I feel that connections are made with the students and the success rate versus Jim? I might give it a 2, he might give it a 5. on a Likert scale or something just to measure it. The score being, if we had 4 questions, the score being a perfect 20. Or what's 4 times 7, 28? Something like where we each give a number. So I don't know if we want to look at something like that, encompassing the MSBA, but just, that's a lot to write on, just a number combined with a narrative. I don't want to set you up for 3 months from now, we go, feels good, right? But attendance went down, we lost 25 kids, that happens. That's a natural progression in school.
Right.
I have students that don't come to school and I don't know why. I want them to come to school, I call home, I do all the things that, the handbook says to re-engage, but sometimes it just doesn't go that way. So I want us to be kind of clear on our baseline and where you think you could take it. I think I could move this to a 30. I think I could move this to, or I don't want us to hang our hat just on that, but it could be a piece of it. That's why it's so complex. But that's kind of where my head is with just a mini survey to the board and what does that document look like? And is it vetted or is it just something the board would come up with? That gets into a muddy place too, but I would, give you a 5 on energy and optimism and motivation just off today. I wouldn't say we're starting at a 5. So, I feel like we have a lot of deficit areas that we need to enhance. Some in the middle, some at the bottom, and some are rocking. And, we need to maintain or, get a little higher, but you named everything.
So would you like to, when I put that together, I used the standards. We could quantify that, basically just here's each one of these, give me where you think the district sits right now in this area, in this area, this area, this area, and then go through them. And then you just keep that, basically, I guess, if you're looking for your own baseline. I operate the same way. I always had special services, right?
Yeah.
And have a baseline. So I could do that as well, if you want to be able to modify it or to have something like that. And then we could talk about that tool after the fact, at least bring an idea on what it could look like. I can do that.
And like Jennifer said, is that something we should be doing for you? The stick, or is that something we should work on with him together? Like you could bring something and we could look at it together and say, no, this doesn't work. Or is it something the board chair should work on with you and the vice chair, at your agenda meeting, kind of looking at what that could look like.
Sure.
So you're not doing it all by yourself and feeling the pressure of, is this what the board wants?
Yeah. I think I can say this is what my mind goes to, or does yours go to? And then these two could bring it back to you and say, this is where we went. Does this work? Something like that.
I don't want it to be too big, but just something. What do you think?
You are next in the queue.
Thank you.
So,
Great discussion all around here. I mean, that's what the workshop's about. That's wonderful. I want to keep us in mind that in about 3 months, we have to make a decision. So measuring surveys, people might still remember the past, they may not know Mr. Norton that fully yet. So is he being measured by his performance or something being measured from before? Who knows? Ultimately, it's our decision here. That's where we go forward. And whether we, don't take this wrong, whether we keep Mr. Norton or we open up, one of the two. That's our decision in December, what we're gonna do. That's what we promised that. So with that said, all the boards I've been on, all the boards I reported to, you always bring something to the board, an issue or a situation with a solution. And that's what he did tonight. He brought us a solution. That's what, instead of saying, what do you want to do? That's not a good administrator telling you, what do you want to do? We should not be making things up, telling him what he should do. He should be bringing us things going on with solutions, if that's the case, or reports of what's going on. And he did that tonight, and I applaud him for that. So.
anything else?
I would just say Barb Dorn would be a great resource. Maybe the 4 of you could get Barb on the call and she would be happy to, that's what she did the last time, was just help plug in. And I think this belongs here. What do you guys think? And she kind of worked with us, so that was very helpful.
Yeah, Well, we can talk about this at the agenda meeting on Monday and kind of get things maybe a little bit more narrowed in, and then, yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to point out one other thing, a great discussion, great what we're doing, but to evaluate the success of what you're doing in 3 months is gonna be very difficult to do. So as we go forward, we'll have to take that into account. The other part of it is we have a planner that's, I assume they're going to be doing some surveys in our community of what we need to be doing and everything else. I suspect they're probably going to come up with the same things you're saying, but I don't know that, so what are we gonna do 4 or 5 months from now? Follow what our planner's suggesting if it's contradictory to what the superintendent's telling us? You know, we just need to remember, we got a firm that's hired to go look into how to make our school work in a better way. And at the time, I didn't realize, but it's actually looking at a new strategic plan. So just putting that out there. Thank you.
All right, well, we'll have more at the next meeting, if not before. Okay. Next up are some policy reviews. So the first one is 515, protection of people's records. Does anybody have anything they want to bring up with that? I had a couple minor things. Most of our policies just reference superintendent, but I think this one had Karsten named in it. And that wasn't one of the red line changes, so I just wanted to make sure that that got changed. And I think putting it just as superintendent is better. That way we don't have to make sure that as personnel changes, I think it was this one.
Should be superintendent or responsibility authority means superintendent under M.
It's like towards the later part of it. I'm sorry.
And
I
do we
should've-
want it with,
I didn't have it printed out.
some of the other ones we did were superintendent or superintendent designee.
Right. I think it's, I'll find it. And then with this one, there was something else where it was talking about, sorry, I read these and then I have to go back and figure out what the part was that I was thinking about. Where students can request records. Sorry, there was something about like,
Is it the
Statement of
general
rights, number
conclusion or the general classification?
sorry, which ones?
I was saying under number 5, or Roman numeral 5A, rights of parents and eligible students, the right to inspect and review student education records.
Yes, under that, I have to scroll back up to get to it. It's a very long policy. I mean, it makes sense that it's long, but it just makes it hard to remember where I was when I read the different things that I was noticing. Yeah, so under Roman numeral, actually it's under 6, disclosure of education records. A3, then there's, when a disclosure is made under this subdivision, A, if the parent or eligible student so requests, the student shall provide him or her with a copy of records disclosed. And B, if the parent of a student who is not an eligible student, and I don't know if I missed somewhere what the like how we're defining an eligible student, and then that just the rest of that 3B doesn't make sense to me. The student who's not an eligible student requests, the school district shall provide the student with a copy of the records disclosed, but if they're not eligible, is anything being disclosed? I don't know, it just felt very like circular reasoning that I just couldn't, I didn't know if there was maybe a clearer way to,
Well, on page
Something.
8,
did I miss?
if they define eligible
Did they?
student,
Okay, so I just missed it.
There.
Not surprised.
it's very difficult to understand, I think.
I think it's eligible in terms of age.
Well, 18,
Oh.
or enrolls in an institution of post-secondary education. Yeah, so they do give a definition of an eligible student, but it still feels,
And maybe
A
it's just
little
me,
bit,
it's just
yeah.
not making that,
I think this is all legalese.
Yeah.
It probably covers us really well.
right,
Because it is, this is an MSBA level one. isn't it?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it is 36 pages, folks, that's why it's a lot to take in.
does anybody else have anything else? I'm sorry that
No,
mine was not
good.
super organized.
36 pages.
I appreciate the red line version. And I also appreciate that you found it. I'm surprised that there's any policy in here that would name any of our administrators.
Yeah, if it wasn't this one, maybe it was the next one, but
I
there's
missed you
one
on
where
both, yeah.
it had a specific name and I was,
Could be, maybe walk through it.
Yeah,
I'll scroll through and find it.
Maybe that can be our homework, we can just check our notes.
Read through 36 pages again.
Oh, we can all scan it. 7 sets of eyes are easy.
Or we could,
Find it.
I'll just do a word find.
Oh, Lisa says it's on page 33.
Thank you, Lisa. There, she did it, I bet.
If Lisa found it already, then that's all that really needed to happen, is for Lisa to find it and be able to change it. So yeah, I would just say that anytime that we name a superintendent, it should just say superintendent or superintendent's designee,
Yes.
something like that. That way we're not inadvertently violating a policy because of something that is too specific.
So we change that for the last reading.
So this would be the first reading, so yeah, we would change it for the second reading,
Okay.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the data practices compliant official.
Well, and does it have to be? Why would that be in there?
I did not know.
That is so bizarre.
It is odd, because
Yeah.
this is.
A broad policy, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, that line maybe could just be struck because the paragraph or the letter right before it, the data practices compliance official is a designated employee to whom persons may direct questions or concerns regarding problems in obtaining access, blah, blah.
I feel like there must be some reason why B is in there.
Yeah.
Somewhere along the way,
That'd be a
somebody
reason.
must have
Yeah.
argued who an official is. So I think maybe just leaving it in there, but just the official means the district superintendent or designee.
Yeah.
Yes.
Anything else for this one in all 36 pages?
Eyes are going buggy.
Okay, if not, next is 524, acceptable use policy for electronic information resources. So this had red lines that were kind of rearranging some things and adding in information about technology providers and school-issued devices. Does anyone have anything I wanted to bring up about this one? Okay.
I think that, quite honestly, we've had quite a bit of technology. What's on it, what's not on it, where is it, did it break, how do we get it back? I think that our technology people and people who watch our technology are quite busy. With all of the things, kids, they have devices, they have, computers, and so just to know that this is here for families to also kind of be aware of, about internet use and staff using the internet and just what's appropriate, what's not appropriate.
Right.
It's another kind of lengthier one, but I just think it's important because it's an everyday issue, what could be on somebody's computer or phone, or what transfers, or how they got it there. And sometimes the rules have, I think, been bent for some and not for others in the past with who might have misused technology. And so I think it's really important that our staff and families are aware of this policy so that it's clear.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty clear. Clarified things that I think were kind of nebulous before. Next policy is 533 wellness. So lots in this kind of got rearranged, especially about like nutrition and that type of thing. Any comments, questions, concerns? Okay. If not, we will do second and third readings during meetings. And then we are on to other topics. Does anyone have anything else they would like to bring up regarding teaching and learning, operations, human resources and negotiations, or other general topics? If not, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
So
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to adjourn made by Ms. Rowe, seconded by Ms. Tower. And if we adjourn, I'll say 9-minute recess, so back at 6:10. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. All right, we are adjourned at 6:01, and we will start our meeting at 6:10. will call to order a regular school board meeting of the Red Wing School Board. There's the recording. All right, all board members are present, as well as Superintendent Frank Norton. We did our Pledge of Allegiance at the workshop, and Mr. Bryant is going to read our mission statement.
Okay. The mission of the Red Wing Public Schools is to educate and inspire all students as they realize their full potential and become respectful, responsible, and productive citizens.
Thank you. All right. Next up is our meeting agenda. Does anyone have anything that they would like to add or change with the agenda? If not, I'm looking for a motion to approve that.
I will make the motion to approve the meeting agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion to approve the agenda by Ms. Tiff, second by Ms. Rowe. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion carries 7-0. Okay, we have our educational plan in our packet. Recognitions and upcoming events. Does anyone have, today of course was the official first day of school, so that's pretty big deal. We welcome all students back to Red Wing. I know kindergarten and preschool have slightly different days this week, but everybody coming back pretty soon here. Any other recognitions, events? Yeah.
Thank you. I had the pleasure of going out to Burnside School this morning and seeing all the kids with their parents being dropped off, the excitement, Ms. Grove, and all the other staff were outside cheering them on. The Winger Bird was there and cheering them. Kids were just excited. You could see the joy in their faces. I then came to the high school and saw similar joy and all that, but really the staff was all there. They had the table set up and I just decided to stand outside and open the door. And everyone but one gave me knuckles. And welcome back. How was your summer? You know, have a great first day. And a lot of them are very happy, very joyful, just excited to be here. Some were like, okay, I'm back. But you did see the enthusiasm, the joy of getting back with their friends, walking with their friends, and just seeing that. It was very nice. And then the teachers and Mr. Nemenich and Ms. Stokes and Mr. Thompson walking around, and kids are all getting their schedules. And Mr. Nemenich summed it up very well. The first day, I've already told everybody, the first day is going to be chaotic. The buses are going to be late, and everybody's going to be scrambling around looking for it. But they'll get there. So it's absolutely right. You know, the kids were fine walking in the locker room. Then I walked back with Mr. Norton. Then from there back to the district office. It was, I thought it was very organized up here, as it was at Burnside too. I'm gonna run to Sunnyside and Twin Bluff tomorrow. Do that.
Awesome.
So just to see how it goes. But it was.
That's great.
It was fun to get the kids fired up to come in, and whether they maintained it, who knows? But,
Did you wear your new tennis shoes, your new school shoes?
I have new school shoes.
Well,
I was, they were probably wondering who this guy was who hold the door with shorts on. But it was fun. I hope everybody had as much fun as I did there.
Anyone else? All right. Next is public comment. So I don't think.
I checked in, there was nobody signed up.
Thank you.
I walked by.
And I don't have any email public comment. Do you? Okay.
Yeah.
For future reference, if you would like to make public comment, you can email that to myself and or Mr. Norton or come to the meeting and speak in person. All right, next up on our agenda is referendum planning. So I think, okay, there you are.
Sorry, trying to figure out the light. The sun is coming in my little home office here. It's a little bright, so I'll try to illuminate here a little bit without ruining the screen for me. So a couple of things I wanted to chat with you about tonight. One was the sample ballot is ready. We won't be publishing it, I don't think, until a later date, but I wanted you to see what it looks like. Lisa, if you could blow that up just a little bit, you can see that the ballot question, there is only one. That's what the wording will look like. There'll be actual circles that people will fill in. But again, the wording is that the Board of Independent School District 256 Red Wing Public Schools has proposed to renew its existing referendum authorization of $1,650 per student. So you can, that's the language you guys approved, and that will be on the ballot. The absentee ballots become available in 2 weeks. But again, the sample ballot does not have to be published in a newspaper until the 22nd and 29th will be, I believe, unless we decide to go earlier. That would be up to Mr. Norton to decide, unless the board has, an idea of something, but that's the timeline under state statute would be in October. So then if you scroll down the ballot, Lisa, please, you can see that we have the, it's a random order of how they put things in. And on this particular sample ballot, you can see that that would be the order of the names at this particular time, and that people will be able to vote for up to 3. Just a reminder for anyone listening, you can vote for 1, you may vote for 2, you may vote for 3. If you vote for any more than that, your ballot will be thrown out. So you can just vote for 1 or 2 or 3, whatever your preference is, because there are 3 open seats. Any questions about the sample ballot?
I don't think so.
Okay. Sounds good. Then I wanted to talk about the referendum presentations. As expected, today we got some people, now that Labor Day and summer is officially over and they think that we're all back at school, which we are, and readily available. We have 5 referendum presentations planned right now. I'm looking for school board members to be willing to accompany either Frank or Martina Wagner or myself to any of these. And we have a couple of other groups that are looking at, but the city council has asked that we have somebody come and explain the school district referendum. That would be either the 12th or 26th once their agenda committee meets this week and just sets that. So that is a little bit in flux, but it would be one of those 2 dates.
I can help out. I can help out of the 20th, 21st, and October 11th, but if other people want to jump in too, I can help any of those days. So, but the other 2, the 12th and 13th, probably not be as, I have some conflicts at those 2 days.
I can do the 12th and the 26th, or the 26th.
26th of September?
Is that what you just said?
No.
Okay, good.
Okay.
I was listening.
All right. So Ms. Tower will take that one. Then Mr. Bryant, you would be willing to join Dr. Wagner at Rotary on the 20th. And if anybody, Community Education Advisory, who is on it? Who, I think Ms. Tower is the representative for Community Ed, but I didn't know if we wanted to have somebody else come in person that day too.
The alternate, do we know?
No, but let me look at my schedule for
Okay.
that one.
All right.
It depends on the day for me, if I could take some personal time.
Okay.
So I'll look at it.
Okay. And then obviously October's a little ways out. So if people want to wait, that's fine.
I can do October 13th.
For at 9:30 for Golden K at the Pottery Place. Great.
Yes.
Right. And then
I can do the 11th. Bill wants to October 11th.
Where's the
So
one?
I'm available those 3 days but I see it, Heidi's gonna do that. I'm just saying, there's other board members.
Yep.
I'm available October 12th. Does somebody want to do that one?
right. Thank you.
For organizing.
Yeah.
And I got a question. Are there more meetings set up? I remember 4 years ago, they had community, they opened it up to the community members too, by having some community involvement or dates set up. I remember City Hall before the League of Women Voters, there was a presentation by the superintendent then. So is anything like that surfaced?
The one, the school board forum, when the 9 candidates are going to be there, I was planning on being there, setting up a little table and having some people could stop by and ask questions. The Coalition for Strong Schools has offered to help distribute them at the Hispanic Festival this weekend. And also to have, we thought about having a table available if possible at the city and the county. That makes sense for when they have their candidates. We have not scheduled any presentations yet in our own building. We're invited the community. We would like to do that. I just didn't, I haven't put that on there yet just because I wanted to see when the city was going to choose its date. And then we're going to try schedule a couple other ones in the evening. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and you know, like at the library too, I'm just gonna share this with you. I'm hearing from a few people that they're not really keen on the referendum with inflation and all that, so getting the word out, telling them about it, it's instead of 1 or 2 people, do our best as a school district for 2 months to do it.
Yep.
And we want to get it out there, we want to get the right information out to people so they can make the best decision that they can at the time. But, and I think that'd be a great way, segue into Mr. Norton's number 2 goal of community. If he could get out and be involved in some of those presentations, as much as possible, meet people and do that. But I'm just sharing it. You're organizing it. I'm just sharing what we've seen in the past.
No, thank you. This is very helpful. We'll set some time up. I do have requests in at that they're looking at to speak at the downtown plaza, Jordan Towers. It may be easiest just to have it at the library and pick a time to do that. And then also the Village Cooperative. A couple of them are still not too keen on having a lot of people come in because of COVID concerns, but I will make sure that I let them know that when we will have ones at the either at schools or at the public library. So thank you. That's a very good idea. And then one of the other things that we've got on our list to do this week is to clarify, now that we have our staff essentially on board and our most of our openings filled, that we're going to let them know again what the parameters are. Obviously in their personal lives and out in public on their personal emails outside of the school day, they're free to speak up about the referendum, but during the school day, it is strictly school business, and we cannot advocate during the school day for anything as part of our job. So very different for schools compared to other local governments, that we're not to use government to solicit things. So yes, anybody?
Yes, sorry.
Ms. Tower.
I keep interrupting and I'm sorry. Would it be okay if I went to the community block party on Friday?
Yes.
Community, yeah. At the
3rd Street from Bush to East Avenue.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
And then do something there.
Yep, I'll be happy to get you some information, and we can set that up. And then also, I think the Red Wing Arts, it'd be good for us to connect with our students who are going to be having some things there and allow them to be a voice in the community also. So, but these are just the presentations that, the groups at this point have requested that I appreciate your help with that.
Yes.
Alright, thank you. Okay. Next up, school board reports.
There's nothing new to report for the negotiations committee. I do see that, we had left one undone.
Program director.
It was the program directors and supervisors. So we'll need to perhaps, relook at where things have left off with that group and maybe get that going again.
We talked about it at our last agenda.
Oh, good, perfect.
Anything else?
Labor Management Committee met, and we, this is the year when we rebid for health insurance. Every 2 years by state law, we must bid for health insurance. We're back negotiating some with a provider and with some alternatives, options. We'll be seeing something come into the board in October to finalize the, which plan they're going to recommend for the school.
We had our GCD board meeting on the 24th or the 25th. And it was kind of a short meeting. We had it out at Tower View, and there was a tour offered. It's beautiful out there. It was upstairs in that room. It reminds me of a barn, but it's not really a barn, but it's like a nice venue, not a barn for animals, but you know, for people to square dance. But one of the things that we've discussed was doing our meetings so that they can be transparent for the public. Taped and loaded onto their webpage, kind of like the YouTube videos, and there still is some hesitation by a couple members to secure that, so that if any of you wanted to just click on the GCD board meeting, you could just click on it and watch it at a later time, you know, just the link posted. Some schools have it where you have to call in and request to watch the recording, which I don't think is prudent to privacy. If somebody just wanted to watch the GC board meeting, why do they have to call the office and ask for the link? So there's some of us who are like, yes, transparency is best. It's, public boards, public dollars. And then there's some that are like, no, I don't understand why we would do it. So we're still kind of in negotiations, and one of the members wasn't there. So they're gonna go back and talk to their board about it. In the olden days, we used to say, well, if they wanna go to the meeting, they should just go to the meeting and it's on. Well, the olden days are over, and not everybody has transportation, and some people work at night, and the meetings are in Red Wing, and this is for all of Goodhue County. So I don't understand why you couldn't just, this is me, being a little biased, but you should be able to just click the link on GCD's website and watch a board, catch up on the minutes and the discussion around something to be fully informed. I can't always remember everything, obviously. So
Makes sense.
yeah, that's the direction I would like to see GCD boards. And we did try the OWL last time, so we were recorded, but nothing has come of it. But we are gonna vote as a board on the 22nd of September on whether or not the board is gonna secure that. And, if they don't, I'll continue to bring it up until we do, so.
All right, any other?
Can I comment on that? I just thank you. I think that as a member of this board, it's near impossible. I appreciate your time on that board and being able to bring things to us, but there are times when I would like to go back and listen to things, and the minutes that we get don't always delve deep. Well, we used to get minutes. I haven't seen them for a while either, but I would like to be more informed, and I would like to be able to click and watch. I mean, we can do that in our district. I'm guessing Goodhue, Lake City, no? Other districts? Cannon. So-
and Kenyon Wanamingo, you can. So really it's
Yeah.
kind of split.
Who has it online?
Yeah, who has it online? Like I said, some boards like us are like, why wouldn't you? And other people are like, well, why would you? And I just go back to it's public dollars. It's, public service. It's a public board. Therefore, the public, transparency should be able to, without having to call the office and say, hey, can you send me those minutes? You don't have a phone that's, working for you at that moment, or you're in a place where you just don't want anybody to know that that's what you wanted to do that day. It's your right to watch that. So that's the advocating I'm doing, like I
Thank
said.
you. I appreciate that because
I'll bring that back
I
to
would
the board.
agree. I would agree that I think it's in everybody's best interest, especially since we are a consumer, right? We're a co-op, we're part of something bigger. I mean,
And our cross subsidy is over $3 million.
Yeah.
And so it's a pretty quiet board for that amount of money to not be informed.
for sure. I agree with you. Thank you.
Totally.
Okay, next up, administrative reports.
Okay, normally I would bring people for you to meet, but it's their first day. So they gotta get their sleep tonight, so I did talk with the administrative group a week ago and asked them to have somebody on their mind of the 27 teachers that we have, bring them and just so you guys get a sense of who we have within the district. But I did give them this one off. So that's that first part, the first day of school update. I went out to a few schools myself, and Martina did as well, and to Jim, and so I'll kind of go through them. The first one though is our Kids Junction in the morning. So 6 o'clock in the morning, staff are up, they're there, and from what I understand in the report, the Sunnyside, Burnside, Twin Bluff schools currently have 350 kids
Wow.
enrolled in that program. So it is a huge success, and they continue to accept registrations. So it could grow as it becomes out there. Of course, people could find daycare and they could say, no, that's not what I want. But 350 is an amazing number to have our kids at the schools, taking care of them, getting them breakfast. So that's the Kids Junction. They started Coble Family Center and our preschool classes, they start on Thursday. So they're not quite in yet. Sunnyside went out and watched the little ones, and they are getting into their routines. So they were going through the line. This is how we go through breakfast. A lot of the teachers were just leading them around. I saw Mike out and about, just making sure that everything was operating the way that it wanted to, and the building was calm, and the kids were all smiling, with the exception of the ones who knew not what it was at all, and just stared at me. Stared and looked, and okay, keep moving along. Which is, I'm used to that, with the little ones there, but it looked like everything was running on all cylinders already out there. Martina went out to Burnside and I saw a couple of them on there. You guys can see pictures as you're going through inside here. Burnside, Jim already mentioned that the Winger bird, the Winger mascot was out greeting people, pictures on the playground, lots of thumbs up. The pictures that we're giving out there, so Burnside is underway. The middle school, I got a report from Patrick, the middle school principal there. He said that they're excited, the kids are excited to be back. They're excited to be able to eat together in the lunchroom, all the things that they may have not been able to do for the last couple of years. And just getting into that middle school model, how they treat each other, how they work together inside there, those kinds of things at the middle school. And at the high school, I'll piggyback off again. The kids seemed excited when they were down in there. The system was very well run. They were picking up their schedules at the table. The office was full of people inquiring. As you walk through the hallways, the teachers were out greeting kids at their doorways, building those relationships right from that very first day. Walked through again later on, the hallways were calm, so everything seems to be on cylinders. I went to the first lunch and it seemed great. So the first day I think was a huge success overall. Any questions on the first day back again? Comments? No? Okay. I'm going to move on to the Native American Programming Plan.
I just think this is adorable.
Oh,
It's
good.
very heartwarming to see.
Yeah. I'd like to thank Ann, she took a lot of those pictures you can see. That'll be available again if you'd like to be able to see them. I didn't see a lot of kids that were afraid of the bird out on the side there.
That's good.
No, I didn't either.
So, all right, Native American program, Martina is here just to give a brief little snapshot.
Do you want me to do it from here?
Yeah, you can do it from there.
So nothing has changed since the last time I met with you, and you have the link to the full plan, but I have been in connection with the state, so our plan, our new American Indian plan will be released September 21st. I've reached out to Phil White, who will be working with our APAC, our American Indian Parent Advisory Council. We'll have roughly the same amount of money to identify in our 6 key areas, and I believe we are on the agenda November 21st to present the plan from the APAC and how the money will be used for our American Indian students.
So more information will be coming, but I wanted to give you an update until we get it completed, okay? Next is the solar field update, and you guys asked about that at our last meeting. So I asked Kevin and Alan to come tonight to give us a really complete idea of where we are. If that's okay?
Yes, awesome.
Thank you.
I do have that.
Frank told me I had to keep it under an hour,
I
right?
did.
Okay.
I said,
The lights will go off.
"Better to have it in an hour." I said, "You got 5
Ready,
minutes
set, go.
max."
No, I'll make it go quick. That's why I sent these out. I misunderstood him originally. I thought he was talking about our current solar garden and where we're at and how it's performing. So I've got that. I'll do second. I'll do your intent, Frank, the first part. Yes, there's extras on the back table for public, whoever. The rented property that we had across the street, under the tower over here, just this afternoon, I got confirmation back from IPS that XL Energy is still holding up the ball, but they're only going to allow them to build a 400 kW solar field instead of the 1 megawatt that they normally would do, because they said when you go under 1 meg, the payback really isn't there. So he said, stay tuned, but they haven't abandoned the project yet, but they may have to if XL sticks with their 400 kW limit on the size that they'll let them put over there. So.
With the remaining ground that we.
Pardon?
With the remaining area that we have to offer. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, the piece that we had a lease on,
Yeah.
that they could lease to put a 1 megawatt garden on, yes. That we have nothing to do with other than gaining money from the lease.
Right.
So unfortunately, it looks like that one could fall through because XL is limiting the size of it. So the other one I'll go through is our solar garden, the one that's on the school property out here. I just put together a lot of pieces. I will not go through all of it. I put it there so you could read it if you're interested. Bottom line, thus far, this garden has saved our school district $372,255. And as you know, that gets slightly larger each year, and the last year is projected to be almost $500,000 at year 25. So it's pretty close to what the projections are. Gcd is doing quite well as well. They're just under 37,000 to single school district. So I won't go into it any deeper than that unless you have questions on that one. Sake of time. The next one here that the district should be very proud of is, I think it was about 3 weeks ago now, the school district got notification from Energy Star that all of our K-12 schools this year are currently certified as Energy Star compliant, meaning we're in the top 25% nationwide to apply or to qualify for it. You average out all of our buildings, we're actually in the top 13.6% nationwide as far as energy use. That does not include the solar garden. That's gravy on top of it. So, and then I just wanted to say thank you to Mike Lavoie. He's with National Facility Solutions. We have to have a third-party mechanical engineer certify this for us and verify the accuracy of our numbers. And he's been doing that gratis for us for several years, as you know now. Some companies charge as much as $4,000 a building to do that. If we had to do that, I wouldn't be applying for it because it just isn't worth it. But just want to say thank you to him, and if you have any questions on that, I'd be happy to answer those as well.
Oh, nice, these other two.
Pardon?
Caldwell would have qualified.
Colville and Jefferson both have qualified in the past. They took it away from us one year because they found out Colville, we were renting space out and we have different programs in there, so it threw us out of the K-12 group. Jefferson's always done quite well, but because it wasn't occupied the full year, it doesn't qualify either. So, but Jefferson's usually in the 90s. It's surprising they have walls that thick, so.
Do we have these highlighted anywhere on referendum info?
That I don't know if, I gave this information to Ann just today, so
Awesome.
I'm sure she'll use it
Put it
somewhere.
together then.
I can talk to her too. And then on top of that, the lights that we have here, we're happy to say that we're at 97% complete, and that again is going to save us some more, and hopefully it'll raise our numbers just a hair more. And once it's complete, then we'll go through every building and do a light by light thing. So that's as short as I can do 4 presentations. So.
Wonderful.
Kevin.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So if you need updates on anything else other than solar fields, you ever need questions answered, I can certainly bring any of these groups back in again to be able to update you. I could have gotten that information and I probably would have been able to do it, but it sounds so much better when it comes from Kevin and Alan, doesn't it? The last thing I have on here was the organizational chart. And I have, during my time, basically, I think I updated you the last time we were here, and I've gone from entity to entity to entity, each one of them underneath, and I've finally gotten to where I feel pretty comfortable with an understanding of, and taking pieces and saying, well, that piece matches here, and I've moved some of the people around, some things around inside the organizational chart. I also had Lisa rework it a little bit, so it won't look exactly like this, but this is sort of a working document for me. And what I've done is basically, this is just the overshot. This is just me, the board, me, and then the entities that are underneath each one. And then from there, it goes down into pages. So I'll put it onto one flow chart from there. So for example, we're talking about the board, the superintendent, building principals, and everybody under building principals would be under one. So it's just a little easier for me to be able to go piece by piece by piece. Mm-hmm. So I think I'm at a point now, there's only a couple of actual pieces inside here that I would like to touch base with on one more time, but I think I've pretty much wrapped it up. What I'd like to be able to do then is on the next board meeting, give it to you to be able to preview, and then you could say, yes, that's the direction that we're going. I don't want to hold it up too long. Most of what is in the organizational chart right now, I'm already sort of shifting without that actually happening. I've already said this is what's going to be happening. I don't need it necessarily to be on a piece of paper for me to be able to say, I need you to come to me, or you're going to be shifted over there. Those pieces were pretty easy to be able to do. Some of the pieces that were within the organizational chart didn't necessarily exist, or they could have existed in another area. The title was wrong. Those simple pieces like that have been reconstructed too. But I just wanted to give you an update as to where I was. I'm not asking for anything at this particular time, just giving you an idea of my thought process and where I am in that whole thing as an administrative report.
Sounds good. Ms. Tower?
Yes, I just want to say that chart matches your socks.
Yeah.
All those stripes. The minute you held it up, my eyes went, oh my gosh.
I'm not going to hold my leg up to show the audience.
For the audience, striped.
Just have to admit it.
No, it's actually, that's going to be very, very helpful, and I appreciate you putting it in the way that your brain works.
Yeah.
And it's more transparent because my brain works that way too.
Okay.
I like to see all the details.
Okay.
Yeah, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
That's all I have as far as reports. Right now.
Where are we at with staffing? Do we have like unfilled positions? Today was the first day.
Yeah. There's the staffing part out of here because there isn't, I mean, there are some that'll come in the consent agenda.
Right.
The cooks, the special services paras, resignations, but we're filled, backfilled, basically.
Okay.
So I can bring you a full report as to everything that is done, that's out there. But the pieces really, as far as staffing are concerned, are really more about licensing at this particular point. We have staff in those particular roles.
Great.
Now we're just moving toward getting them the out of licensure certification, basically. So that's our primary. If you remember, we were short some physical education teachers at our last one, some special services people. All of those people are in place. There aren't kids that are sitting in a classroom without a teacher.
Without teacher.
So
Great.
we're good, as far as staffing is concerned right now.
Great.
Good.
Any other questions for admin report? If not, we are up to the consent agenda. Does anyone have anything they would like to pull from the consent agenda? If not, I'm looking for a motion to approve that.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the consent agenda by Ms. Tower, second by Ms. Rowe. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. And that carries 7-0.
Can I ask you a quick question? It has no bearing on passing the consent agenda. I'm just curious on how long it takes to get a receipt of a valid Minnesota license when you're applying for that.
Well, we would hope that we put them in as a substitute through TLC right now, and we have 15 days basically, so it shouldn't
Okay.
really take very long at all.
Great.
Some of them are coming from across borders, some of them have had a license and it expired, and we're just getting them upped again. A current license or licensed in it, they went to school for it, they just let their license lapse, and now we're re-upping it, so.
Thank you.
Okay. Do you have any many of them applying for variances for a certain position?
Out of licensure?
Yeah.
Yes. There are a few that are in that particular area. Licensing, if you go through the consent.
I just didn't know if there were more than that.
Everybody that we're bringing on now, we're making exceptions basically for that.
Thank you.
All right. Next up, our donations and grants. So we have a donation from Amy French for $150 for the emergency medical fund, and a grant, I'm assuming, from Choose Kindness Foundation for $2,000 for Burnside Elementary School. Do you know what that is?
That was from somebody, that was.
The Choose Kindness Foundation? Just curious.
I think I saw online earlier. This is added since I looked at it over the weekend. There's only one thing talking about on the weekend.
Choose Kindness Foundation for the donations and grants.
There was something that was here.
Got a hand up there.
Oh, yes.
It goes along with our positive behavior interventions and supports.
Oh, okay. So if that didn't come through, it's for positive behavior and supports.
The PBIS.
Gotcha.
Is it just Burnside doing it, or are you sharing that with Sunnyside?
I thought there was another school that had gotten one.
Maybe that one
as well to check.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. All right, so, other questions, comments?
I will make the motion to approve the resolution accepting donations and grants as
I'll
presented.
second it.
Okay. So we have a motion to approve the resolution by Ms. Tipp, second by Mr. Bryant. Any other discussion?
Just a question, Mr. Norton, sometime down the road, can you just find out what's available, what amount's still in the emergency medical fund? Because we've approved a number of requests. Just curious if it still needs money or continuously needs money. It's kind of something that is near and dear to my heart a little bit.
Sure, I'll do that.
Thank you.
All right. So we have a motion to approve the resolution, motion made by Ms. Tipp, second by Mr. Bryant. Because it's a resolution, we will do a roll call vote. So I'll begin with Ms. Tower.
Aye.
Mr. Bryant.
Aye.
Mr. Dirks.
Aye.
Ms. Tipp.
Aye.
Ms. Rowe.
Aye.
Ms. Buck.
Aye.
And chair votes aye, so that carries 7-0. Thank you very much to Amy French and Choose Kindness Foundation for your donations. Okay, next up are second readings of policies 415, 416, 417, 418, 708, and 709. So these are ones that we already read once and had opportunity to discuss in a workshop. Does anybody have anything they want to bring up about them now? Okay. And then, so those ones will come back next meeting for their third reading and their approval. The next batch, policies 208, 209, 210, and 410 have had their first reading on August 1st during our workshop. It had its second reading, or they had their second reading on August 15th. So they are up for approval. This would be their third reading. Does anyone have anything they want to bring up about them before that? Okay, if not, I'm looking for a motion to approve the revisions to those policies.
So moved. I'll second.
Okay, motion to approve the revisions to policies 208, 209, 210, and 410, made by Ms. Rowe, second by Ms. Tower. Any other discussion? Okay, all of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. So that carries 7-0. And I have, Lisa has this great spreadsheet of where things are at with your first reading, second reading, third reading. So we have a few of these that, you know, this is going to be a regular thing for the next couple of months. But yes, yes. So she keeps us all running. All right. Upcoming meetings and future topics. I think I failed to email out the information about the potential workshop. So I will do that and we can discuss that on the 19th.
Potential workshop.
For superintendent search.
I haven't filled out my school board agenda or school board survey.
Yes.
Jim reminded me and then I forgot.
Okay, so
My
yes.
study buddy over here reminded me.
So yeah, if you haven't filled out the board self-evaluation yet, please go and do that. And we'll follow up on that soon.
Okay, I'll do it this week, I promise.
Okay.
You remind her again, Jim.
Remind me too, because I think I gotta take that.
Okay, I'll send the email out again.
I'll just, I may say, I'm gonna say it again down the road, but the evaluation I filled out, I found no place to make comments.
Okay.
True.
That is not an evaluation I normally fill out.
Okay.
There's places for comments, there was none.
I'll
So
pass
I
that
did,
on.
I'll bring it up again.
All right, and then you can see, oh, sorry, Mr.
I
Jones.
really didn't like the evaluation. I didn't think the format was right at all anyway. Because,
Agree with you.
I didn't agree with some of the questions that were on it. That's just my opinion. I filled it out because I was asked.
Same here.
So that might be part of our conversation when we look at the review of it
Yeah.
and figuring out what we want to do moving forward. If we collectively have better thoughts of what we want to measure and get that set up for next time. And then in the packet, there's the upcoming meetings, future topics. It's pretty filled in with some of the things that you guys have asked for. Is there anything else that anyone would like to see?
Brought up again through Kevin's presentation there. We probably have discussed it, but I don't recall where we're at. We've sold a building twice and we still own it. So I'm curious if we get where we're at with that, with a building by some group, by we're gonna sell it. And we messed up at Jefferson a year ago or so, and we're nowhere near anywhere than we were that night, so.
And I think some of that, at least in my understanding, was going to come from the educational planner, possibly, or, you know, just looking at how to utilize the district's buildings. So,
That's fine. I just don't want to forget about it.
right,
It's costing us $50,000 to $70,000 or more a year to
just to
keep it
hang
there.
on to. Okay, anything else? If not, I think we are looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Okay, motion to adjourn made by Ms. Tower, second by Mr. Bryant. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion carries 7-0. We are adjourned at 6:55 PM.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody have a good night.
You do.
I'm gonna go to my lesson.
Okay.
I'm gonna get on the.
And you